Hey everybody, you are about to watch the Dr. Jaime Show. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to the Dr. Jaime Show. I am so happy that you are joining me on this happy Friday. That's right, screw Friday the 13th. No negativity here. It is actually going to be a day of good luck because guess what, guys? It's all up here in your mind. If you're going to have a bad day or unlucky day, you're going to have a bad day or an unlucky day on October 14th or October 15th or January 12th. So it's all in here. If you're going to have a lucky day and a great day and you push out that energy into the universe and you get in that right mindset, you're actually going to have a pretty awesome day. And it's Friday. Who wants to have an unlucky, bad day on a Friday? Nobody. Plus, it's the day of the Dr. Jaime Show. We have a super fun segment coming up. I'm actually really excited about this segment. We have Dr. Brian Deptula on the show. And if you can, do us a favor and go to bkdpartners.com to find out all the ways that you can subscribe to him, like him, follow him, and learn more from him. We are going to talk about all things leadership today. We're talking about what is leadership and how is it different from a manager? Someone sent in a great question. What is the difference between a vision and a mission statement? We're also going to talk about millennials as well. And what about millennials working for someone in a different generation, an older generation, right? Like me, older. Or what about the reverse? What about someone older in the workforce, been working there for years, and a brand new, fresh out of college, 22-year-old comes in to become their manager? How does that person deal with that when they feel that they know more than this student that just came into the workforce? So we're going to find out answers to all those questions with the Dr. Brian Deptula here very shortly. Last week on the show, we had Lauren Spires, business coach. We learned how we can literally grow our business to 7 figures without investors or loans. If you missed that segment, you've got to watch it. If you don't have the time, then you can listen to her talk back on audio that ran about 5 to 7 minutes. So it was super awesome, super fun. Thanks, Lauren, for joining us. Next week, if football gets a bye week, Dr. Jaime gets a bye week. That's right. So I am taking a bye week to enjoy a little work-life balance. I'm going to go see some friends as they get married and they enter into that beautiful relationship. Just so you know, my biggest tip to you, Ben and Tiffany, is that it is complete compromise and a full-time job. No, I'm not going to say it like that, but it is for those of you that are married out there. Next, so then the week after that, so that's going to be the 27th now, we have Dr. Erica Lopez on the show, and she is a chiropractor. She was actually rescheduled from September when, unfortunately, Hurricane Irma decided to be a guest on my show. We didn't like her, our least favorite guest, but we do have Dr. Erica Lopez coming back. And then on the 3rd, we have Colette Florida. I'm going to call her Florida. And she is the president and founder of CR World. That's right, we're talking about the cannabis industry. It's a hot topic, so where do we need to talk about it? On the Dr. Jaime Show. We're going to learn about CBD oil. Is it legal? What is it? And everything else in the cannabis industry. So send in your questions. Don't be shy. I'm not shy. I'm going to ask them. So don't hesitate in that area. So then, in about 2 weeks, I'll share the rest of November's guests with you. But I'm so excited about our December 1st, I believe it is, episode. That should be a Friday. We have our Bitcoin and cryptocurrency segment. This is a hot topic. You guys have so many questions about it, and that's right. We are going to talk about it with 3 awesome men on the show that are all immersed in the cryptocurrency business. So any questions you have, I know so many of you want to get into this. Should I put my money in this? It's so up and down all the time, and you're right. So is it good to go into something like that and invest or not? But a lot of people are doing it. So we're going to make sure that we touch on that subject, and we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the downright profitable when it comes to cryptocurrency. Okay, so a little bit more, I'm looking at my cheat sheet over here, that I want to talk to you about. So sponsors. So I owe so much to the guests on the show and the sponsors of the show. So I've decided to put together a holiday celebration. And we have some amazing sponsors that have come through. Taste of Tampa Bay and Street Surfers, which you will see their logo up here. They are sponsoring the food up to 100 people for this event. I cannot believe it. I'm so excited. We are going to be live. So those of you that are not invited, do not worry. You are not going to be excluded. We're going to do a little Facebook Live from the holiday celebration for you. You get to see all of the guests that have been a part of the show, whether it's audio or in person, like Dr. Brian Deptula today. Anyone that's been on the audio, any of the sponsors, whether they sponsored small or large, you are going to see them here live, and that is December 16th, which is a Saturday. So we'll give you a clip and insight into that. If you are interested in sponsoring, I think we have 2, maybe 3 more sponsorships available. Email me, dr@drjaimek.com right now. We need to fully look at your business, but we will consider you for sponsorship. And I can't wait until next week because we have 2, possibly 3 huge sponsors in the pipeline that I can share with you. But anyone that is up here is a sponsor of the Dr. Jaime Show and or the holiday celebration. So give them a shout out, go like them, go follow them, use their services. They're here to support me and they're here to support you. Okay, so what else do I want to talk to you about? Okay, so this week I am part of the board of fellows at the University of Tampa, and they have this amazing, like 3 times a year, they have this amazing leadership panel come in and talk about leadership, which is what we're going to talk to with Dr. Bryan today. And the last question I asked, which Dr. Bryan doesn't know I'm going to ask him today, was about women. So there were 2 men speaking and a woman, and my question was, what advice would you give a woman in leadership? So the woman answered it awesomely, and I'll share with you what she said. But I have to say, even though the men spoke super well during their presentations, I wasn't happy with their answer. I guess I should have phrased it differently since they weren't women, but what I was looking for from them is, I noticed that women make mistakes in this area. Here's my advice to a woman. But instead it was, one guy said, girls should brand themselves, but women should brand themselves. Well, men should brand themselves too. And the other guy had like a gender neutral answer, which was go with your heart and your passion. Well, we should all go with your heart and passion. But if that's the best leadership advice that I'm given in my life, go with my heart and my passion, I'm not going to go far. There's things I need to know specifically for a woman. And I'm going to ask Brian today. I'm sure there's specific things that leaders need to do that are men that should be different from women and vice versa. We're different people. We should lead differently. Not everything's going to be perfectly the same. So the woman said something which I know and I've said to you, but she said it, she added something to it that was inspiring to me that I want to share with you. She said, women need to speak up. I've told you this time and time again. If you don't speak up, you're not going to get it. How I get my guests on the show, how I gain followers, I ask people that I think are going to tell me no. So, and I would say 99.99% of people told me yes. Most people say yes. So speak up and ask for what you want. And that goes for in the workforce. If you are due for a raise, if you want a promotion, speak up. Men, of course, speak up too, but I'm talking to the women right now. Speak up with anything. If someone says, hey, can you do a call on this day? And you look at your planner and you're like, oh my God, my planner's already full. I can't do that time. You know what we do? We rearrange our whole schedule just to fit this person in. Instead, speak up. Hey, do you have any other times available? As stupid and as small as it sounds, we struggle with those things. Kristen and I were talking. Kristen is Brian's wife, and we were talking about devaluing ourselves. Sometimes we even devalue ourselves in certain situations. So very important to speak up. But this lady had said something along the lines of, you want to speak up because they did a research study where women, and you got to kind of follow me here, I'm piecing this together. Women submitted their resumes for a job and were 90% qualified. Men submitted their resumes for the same job and were only 60% qualified. Women don't even speak up until they know they're absolutely going to get it. Well, what if they could have gotten it like 3 years ago? They just were like, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I don't know. And we've got all this self-doubt. Speak up. Throw your resume out there. The worst they can say is no to you. And then oftentimes, in addition, you got people submitting their resumes, 60% qualified, 90% qualified, and then the man might call up and speak up and say, hey, what's going on with my resume? Do I get an interview? What? And the woman just patiently waits. Oh, when I deserve it and I've earned it, they'll call. No, no. No. And she said something else that was super profound to me. She said, women think life is fair. I'm gonna say that again. Women think life is fair. Guess what? It's not fair. It's super far from fair. And if we don't speak up and fight for what we've earned and what we deserve, we're not going to get it, because life is not fair. So my biggest tip to women, and men, this is for you too. Some of you guys struggle with this, and that's okay. Speak up, and remember, life is not fair. So you might have to fight a little harder for what you want here and there in life. Okay? So the last thing I want to share with you, and we're going to have her on the audio show. I can't wait. And hopefully after the new year, we're going to have her on the show right here, sitting in this chair, Debbie Lundberg. She has written 9 books. I'm going to be interviewing her on the audio version, Leading Without Losing Your Femininity, probably in the next week or so. I'm going to share with you just like 2 of her tips. Debbie, if you're watching, I hope that you don't mind. I'm going to share 3 with you. She says, stop. These are all things that we need to stop doing. Stop being trendy. Stop just meeting people. Stop apologizing. Stop assuming. That was 4. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go into detail because I need you and I want you to come listen to her audio and then come back when we get her live on the Dr. Jaime Show to hear all about how we can lead without losing our femininity. But a lot of these tips, when I'm looking through them, are universal. So we're going to have her on hopefully after the new year. Debbie, if you're watching, set a date after the new year, and we're going to get you on. It needs to be a Friday. Type it in the chat. Okay, I think I've talked enough. I know what you're waiting for. You are here for this segment on leadership. You want to know all of your answers to leadership. So let's bring up the guy that knows it all, Dr. Brian Deptula. Yay, hello.
Hello.
How are you? Welcome.
Good.
Thank you. Take a seat. Enjoy. Well, thanks for driving up here.
You're so very welcome. It's always nice to be up north.
Yeah, so yeah, up north in the cold. Yeah, he's from Fort Lauderdale. That's right. He made the drive last night to be on the Dr. Jaime Show. So how was it driving up here? Was it okay for you? It was Thursday. Were you in traffic or?
It was an easy drive. Kristen and I get our best work done on the road.
Okay.
And when we first met, we lived in Boston, and so we'd take up Route 128 and we'd go from Boston up to Gloucester and all those cool places, and we just sort through life and have a good time and enjoy the view. So that's what we did last night.
Excellent little bonding. So I was watching a radio show with Wes yesterday. We were in the studio, and they talked about the top 10, what was it, Wes? The top 10 games that people play in the car. So one of the games that we play in the car is like you hunt for the letter. So like what word starts with the letter A? And then what word starts with the letter B? All while we're driving all the way to Z. I don't know what games you play. You can type them in the chat. One of the games was Punch Buggy. Do you remember Punch Buggy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Punch Buggy. Ow, ow. So you got to really be aware because you don't want to be punched. Anyways, we're happy to have you here. Before we start the show, one thing that we do on the Dr. Jaime Show is share with everybody something super unique, bizarre, weird, funky that nobody or very few people know about you.
So when I was about 6 years old, my godmother, who helped raise me and taught me how to play baseball, she's the person who said, okay, we need to get you a job. And she's also the person who said, we're going to get you playing sports. So came this one occasion where I was about an hour away from the start of the game, and the newspapers had come a little late. So you have to bundle them up, you have to put them on your bike, and then I would ride my bike around the neighborhood and toss them out, break a few windows. And so got to this one point where they were really late, and she says, well, put all the newspapers in the car, we're just going to drive around. Okay. So I was literally hucking newspapers out the window. Okay. She's driving, and we get caught in traffic. She says, son, I'm going to ask you a question.
How fast can you run?
How long do you see yourself in the newspaper business? And I said, what do you mean? She said, you got to make a choice. Do you want to play baseball, or do you want to deliver newspapers? Because you can't do both in this moment, and you're going to have to sacrifice one or the other. What's it going to be? Now I said, hit the gas, lady, and we took off right down the road. And she says, well, this is an important lesson. And so as my life has evolved, I always go back to that lesson, which I learned very early. Don't be afraid to make sacrifices. Don't be afraid to do something that you really value, because you never know what's going to come of it. Now, at that point, what I valued was becoming a professional baseball player, you see. So anything in the way of that, it's got to go. So as my life has evolved, I've learned to take chances that sometimes may seem silly because they sacrifice what's right in front of us in terms of money, because I wanted to be something else in the future. That has been a very instructive thing for me throughout my life.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that just like sparked in my mind a jack of all trades. Sometimes you can't do everything. You can't be the newspaper boy and the baseball boy and all these things at once. And when that leader was talking this past week at University of Tampa, she had said, and by the way, she is the, I believe, CEO of Ideal Image. And she said, we got to the point where we were good at like 3 things, but then we realized, oh, we could do all 12 of these other services too. We have the machines for it, we have the product for it. But they realized they got too much. Sometimes when you're doing 15 things, you're spread too thin, and you got to be known for a couple core things. So she came in and obviously revamped it, but that just reminded me, sometimes you have to sacrifice. Yeah, they could make 20 bucks over here, but they're making a lot here if they can get really good at it. So
less is more.
Less is more.
Sometimes less money leads to more quality in life,
yes.
more time with the people that you love, more ability to do things that you like travel. So who do you want to be?
And if you get really good at it and you get known for it, then it could bring you even more money. And you're doing exactly what you love. You're not tapping into all these other things you don't know about. Right. So, okay, so the second thing that we do is we turn to a quote on the board, and then you tell us if you agree with the quote, disagree with the quote, and why. So, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Agree, disagree, why?
Partially agree.
Okay, why?
Well, first of all, in recognition of the fact that we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Who's going to argue with Warren Bennis?
Right.
I think this is a great definition, but it's incomplete.
Okay.
Leadership is many more things than that. The ship in that is relationship. And so visioning is part and parcel of how we get people to achieve common objectives. We also have to build that relationship with the individual, because ultimately people follow those in which they have some emotional attention to, and they feel like they can get their lives in a better situation than what they are currently experiencing. So we have to bring people along with us to achieve that vision. So I think it's more complete if we account for the human element to achieve this objective. Okay,
I like that. The ship in leadership is there's relationship. It's like the words combined. It's like Brangelina, everyone, right? Right? Okay. Ha 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 ha. Okay. I know one of you laughed out there. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So. Okay. So I guess tell us a little bit about you. So not yet your company, not yet exactly your profession, but kind of touch on a little bit of what you do. But are you family man? Do you have any pets? Do you have any kids? Did you go to school? Tell us so we know a little about who you are.
Sure. I'm a son, father of 2 beautiful children, 3 years and 1 year old, loving husband. Been married 9 years, together 12, and we're very happy together, and we continue to take this journey together. I'm a professor of leadership and management at Nova Southeastern University, CEO and co-founder of BKD Partners. I mentor people as part of my identity and help grow others as to their ability, and I think that's a very important thing. That's who I am, because I'm only who I am and who I'm becoming because someone saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. Actually, multiple people have helped me in that journey. So my whole identity is wrapped up in how can I actually pay that to other people and help them achieve their objectives. So that's a little bit about who I am and why I do what I do.
Excellent. Do you have any pets for the pet lovers of the world?
We had 2 cats. Okay. We had 2 cats, and I was very, very sad to see our departure, but our son has some challenges with cats and animals, so we like those. I had a dog when I was growing up, Honey. So I loved Honey. She slept with me almost every night. So
everyone has that childhood dog. Wes, you had the one, right? What was his name? Her name?
Muffin, or Daisy and Muffin.
Daisy and Muffin. Yeah.
Honey. She would look at me. This is the most frustrating thing in the world. You know that the only thing I can do is give her a pet, right? I mean, like stroke her on the back. So I'd say, Honey, come here. I want to give you love. And she would literally stand up, look at me, and huff, and then walk in the other direction. I said, who turns down a back rub? She did.
Right. Well,
she did.
He's blaming her honey from heaven. We don't believe him. So okay, all right, very good. So how did you get into the business of developing leaders? I guess kind of tell us now your full journey into this.
Sure. I was a national sales director for a company called StudentCity.com.
Okay.
And we were a travel and tourism business focusing on spring break and high school educational trips. And I was running segments of training and writing manuals, and I got to the point where I was at a lunch meeting or coffee meeting one day with a friend of mine, Bill Irwin. We were at a Starbucks, and I said, hey, Bill, do you know why they call that a latte? And he said, why? I said, well, because it takes a latte time to make. We laugh.
Like Brangelina.
That's right. It takes a latte time to make. And so we were literally uproariously laughing. And I started realizing actually that I had tapped into something that I wasn't achieving my full potential and who I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. Because I said, well, and it was in the middle of a bookstore while we were just
So it brought a latte awareness.
A latte awareness. And I said, well, I can make myself better by being a better sales director, right? So I started buying all these books, and all I got was process charts and flow charts and anecdotal evidence from people who led in one organization and think that their experience was generalizable to all over the world, and it's just not, right? So it didn't apply to me. So I said, what do I got to do? I said, well, if I'm going to make people better, I got to be better myself. A little bit of self-leadership. Mm-hmm. I have to make myself better first because I got to be pretty on the inside before I can be pretty on the outside. So first lead oneself, then lead others. So I made some decisions. I went back and got my MBA. In the middle of my MBA, Krista and I were talking about where we wanted to be in our life and our life's journey, and we said, well, how long do we see this as being part of our life as far as traveling around the world and conducting trainings and running and operating these trips? We made a decision, and I said to her, guess what? And it could have been as innocuous as I'm going to go get pizza. And she said, you're going to go get your PhD, aren't you? And that's how well she knows me. I said, yeah, how'd you know that? She goes, oh, I've known that 6 months in advance. She said, well, I'm just going to have to go get a job and pay for bills. So I went from a 6-figure income with a lot of prestige in that industry and having a little bit of power in that particular industry, refined and bounded to that industry, I'd say, to making $18,000 a year as a stipend. And I did that because we looked into our future 10 years and we said, well, what do we have to do? What are decisions we have to make to get there? And who do we want to become as a couple for our children that we don't have yet? And how do we want to impact the world? And our choice was very simple. We make the sacrifices now financially and professionally in order that we might be better 10 years from now.
And we were actually just talking about this before the show with Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. So check that out. Financially, it's important because so many people are scared to take that financial 6-figure down to 18 grand. Most people won't make those sacrifices now.
I've been told that was, my mom asked me, she said, son, how much money are you going to make? I said, Mom, I won't make in 5 years as a student what I made in 1 year. Yeah. And she said, well, I think this is not a good decision. I said, well, it is. Because
I've done basic math. And
I've done the math. I said, because I want to be a good father, and the father that I have in my mind is this. This is my vision. I want to be a good husband. This is what I want. And the thing that I want to do, which is impact people to bring them to their best leader self, I can't do right now because I'm not prepared to speak as an authority. Mm-hmm. So I needed to train myself up. And in order to train myself up, I went and got my PhD. I worked with some mentors of mine. We actually started a stream of research that is on leader development. And then I founded BKD with Kristen, who operates it as COO, because we believe that people can lead. And all people can lead. Not people in managerial positions only. Every people in all walks of life, gender neutral, racially diverse, doesn't matter. Everyone has the opportunity to lead if they see it within themselves. And our message is that. And that's just what we wanted to do. So we built a company around that, and I teach on that, and I research that, and that's part of our transition.
Excellent. I love it. You're so passionate about it, too. That's great. Okay, so I wanted to jump in and ask you what exactly a leader is, but the most important thing is that when viewers send in me questions, I want to make sure that their questions get asked before our list of questions. Sure. So we had one. I have another one I'm going to share in a little bit. It was actually something that came to my mind, but I want to share this one with you. What is the difference between a vision statement and a mission statement? That's the question.
It's a great question,
okay.
Actually, because people throw these terms around all the time.
Yes.
They just, woof,
yep.
Let's just go do this. So the vision is where we're going.
Okay.
The mission is how we get there.
Okay.
Simple.
Okay.
Vision, how are we going to get there is going to be supported with a mission statement. The vision tells us, here's what I want to achieve, and it gets the emotional connection to the better future.
Okay.
It sets us up to be connected to a possibility.
Okay.
And the mission says, and here along the way are the steps we're going to take.
Okay, excellent. So the mission is the steps, and the vision is here's what I'm thinking we're going to do, and the mission says, well, here are the steps to get to what you think you want to do. Excellent. Okay, very good. All right, so what is a leader?
A leader is a person who sees themselves as a leader, and is seen by others as a leader.
Okay, so it's two-part.
Three-part.
Okay.
Third part, who coordinates and collaborates with others to achieve a common objective. Now, that's an important thing. If I don't see myself as a leader, I won't lead. I won't see opportunities to lead, and I will not put myself forward to lead. Conversely, if I see myself as leaders, but others don't see myself as a leader,
oh, not happening.
Tell me.
Not happening.
Tell me. So here's what happens. I put myself out there, I claim being a leader, and others have to grant that to me. They say, yeah, you know what, and this comes from some research.
That's a great term. Others have to grant that to me. That's excellent.
I'm going to give credit where credit due. That comes from a research paper out of University of Michigan, DeRue and Ashford, on claiming and granting a leader identity in the Academy of Management Journal, or Academy of Management Review.
Well, here on the Dr. Jaime Show, it came from Dr. Brian Deptula.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Again, you know, I want to give that, be humble because we learn from others, right? And I'm only here because others have set a foundation, and I build on that foundation. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So claiming and granting an identity, and you know, you've seen some movies where people are running down the street and they say, "Hey, everybody's coming with me," you know, and all of a sudden you look back and you're by yourself. Well, that makes you not a leader. Mm-hmm. And so the coordinating, collaborating speaks to the difference between managers and leaders because. And we'll get into a little bit about that later, but the point of it is that we have to understand there's processes, and then we also have to understand that others have valuable contributions. And so we don't know it all, and the more we're able to understand how to motivate people and then incorporate their ideas, the more people will see us as leader-like, and then we become someone who they want to follow. So I don't tell you to follow me. I've stated, here's where I want to go, giving you reasons to follow me, and then it's up to you to decide whether or not you choose to do so.
Well, and I love, too, leaders know they don't know everything. So let me ask you this. Do you think Steve Jobs was a leader? Yes, right? I'm assuming that you guys are saying yes as well. So I saw a quote from him the other day, and it was something along the lines of, you don't hire people to tell them what to do. You hire smart people so they can tell you what to do. Yes! Yes.
So one of my role models is Abraham Lincoln. And I just read a book that I believe won the Pulitzer Prize, and it's called A Team of Rivals.
Okay.
So up to the presidential election, you know, there's primaries, and Seward, Salmon Chase, and Edward Stanton are all these people that are running against Lincoln essentially in various stages up to the election.
Okay.
And they're all his competitors. He wins the election, and what's he do? He stacks his cabinet with all the people that are smarter than him.
Boom.
And here's the thing, they all thought they were going to take advantage of Lincoln, and then they realized within a few short months that he was their better. Mm-hmm. And then every single one of them in that cabinet followed him out of dedication and devotion to his vision, his mission, where they were going, and what they wanted to achieve as a unit.
I love that.
Be confident.
Such a great tactic. That's such a great tactic. I love it. So instead of keeping them competition and using all of his energy that he needed to be a great leader, he, instead of using that energy to be angry with people and mean to people and nasty, he used that energy to say, come on my team, let's make everything around us thrive.
Let's do some stuff.
Let's do some stuff. I love it.
That's part of what leadership is. Mm-hmm. Getting work done. Mm-hmm. Having authority over others and using it in a positive way. Getting things from where they are to where they need to be. And that relationship, that's so important, is among people that might be smarter than you and might be better than you in something. Together you're more powerful. You can achieve synergistic results if you use that talent.
I love that. That's excellent. Okay, so you touched a little bit on managers for a moment. When I teach my students, I teach them that there is a huge difference between managers and leaders. Do you think there's a difference between manager and leaders? And if so, what is that difference?
Absolutely. I believe that there can be, and the research bears this out, there can be a person who is a leader who has no managerial responsibility and a person who's a manager who is not a leader at all. Okay. So let's think about those things. Well, we already defined, we'll go back to the definition of leadership, which we'll have to reiterate. But for a manager perspective, they'll listen to that vision that people set forth for them and then implement. The manager collects the data, assesses the data, rewards the people with the instruments that they have at their disposal. They engage the process of checking where we are, where we should be, and then actually making minor adjustments. Or people that are in leaders or see themselves as leaders and seen by others as leaders, they're collecting hearts and minds. You see, they're pushing the agenda forward, setting the vision, and it's up to the manager to make sure that we get to those places. from a manager perspective, they also need to incorporate certain leadership aspects, such as motivating people, giving them a reason to believe in the mission, and doing that day-to-day operation that actually is going to get us to the point where we've achieved what the leaders have set forth.
Okay, excellent. And sometimes I see like there are managers who are more of leaders, but then there's managers that are like, you're going to do this, you work for me. Leaders don't say it. They don't say it like that. We work together. We work collaboratively. You know, we're on the same team. They humble themselves a little more. But, you know, for that manager that says, you work for me, that's, if someone said that to me, I ain't following your ass. I can tell you that. Not happening. So I think leaders have different communication styles too, for sure. Okay, myth or truth, a leader is born.
Yes.
Okay, so it's truth. The truth or
myth? Myth and truth.
Myth and truth. Okay, tell us why.
So there's some fascinating research coming out by a guy named Richard Arvey and some of his colleagues. And they have found, and more, you know, the spectrum is huge, but this person is really focusing on it. And essentially what they found is that there are we've modified it down to certain gene markers.
Okay. Wow, we are getting so
it's
good.
Incredible.
Right,
it's incredible. So what we found in the body of research is that certain genetic markers, such as proactive personality, are specifically attached to where you are as a leader and how you actually take initiative in leadership roles. And so certain people are predisposed to do things like put themselves in leadership roles, put themselves in situations where they will actually have the opportunity to lead. And that is all in your hardwiring. Another thing, you know, psychologists have basically put it down to 5 personality traits that we have. Okay. Extroversion, conscientiousness, openness to experience, and emotional stability, and did I say conscientiousness? Did I say that already?
There's one more. I
should know it too. We got one more.
We're
so
close. Open to experience.
Agreeableness. Agreeableness is the other.
Okay.
So that's part of your hardwiring, right? And yes, a little bit of your personality develops over time, and it's part of your DNA. So things such as being open to experience gives you more opportunities to practice the art of leadership because you're putting yourself in situations where you're taking calculated risks. Yes. Yeah? Conscientious leaders, conversely, if you're overly conscientious, you don't break rules. Okay. You follow the rules all the time. Think of professions that do this. Mm-hmm. So there are certain rules in certain professions where if you break it, then you know you've either violated a code of ethics or you're messing with a calculation that can't be done. Yep. Interestingly enough, the research bears out that breaking rules is actually associated with leadership.
Absolutely.
If you don't,
you're out of that comfort zone, you're breaking the barriers to push a little further, to bring someone to the next level.
There we go. Yep. Yeah. So, yes, we are born with certain leadership traits. And what the research shows is that it accounts for about 25% of whether or not a person will actually fill a leadership role. The rest of it is leaders are born, and they are made. Okay. You're made through nurturing, developmental experiences, taking training and development opportunities, doing workshops, assessments, reflecting critically on your own personal growth, and actually taking steps to strive and achieve stretch goals, and doing that in a way that is productive and aligned with your own vision of who you want to become.
So one of the questions I was going to ask you a little bit later, but I think it fits in now, and be honest with us, only some of us will cry. Is there anybody out there who really you would say, based on this type of personality, you cannot be a leader?
Yeah, of course. I won't identify them by name, but there are infinite.
So they have specific things.
See that? See that?
You know who you are. You're watching.
There are specific markers that will cause a person to be, let us say, selected as a leader. So we call that leader emergence, right? I will emerge as a leader. And they have traits that make us believe they will be great leaders, but in fact, they can't back that up. So narcissism is a trait that you essentially go into, where we make profound statements as to our past achievements and historical data doesn't back that up. We make statements as to our grandiose ability to perform, and then when we actually get into the role, we're unable to back up and validate those claims. Okay, so this happens.
Sounds like lying.
To them, it doesn't feel like lying.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. To them, it feels just like selling. Okay. Because it's so important to have that reinforcement at every instance that they believe that imagery that they've created for themselves will be believed by others. So here's some other things that make you not a great leader, or someone who would be less likely to succeed in a leader role. How about that language?
Yeah, that's great.
Emotional instability, back to the 5 personality traits. Part of being a leader is being able to take feedback. And when we talk about authentic leadership, again, working on some leadership research by Bruce Avolio and Bill Gardner and Sean Hanna, James Avey, these guys are research giants. And they talk about how people develop into authentic leaders, and part of that construct is that we have to be self-aware, and we also have to balance information that comes in that's both positive and give equal weight to the positive as we do to the negative. So when we say things like, well, I'm a great leader, that's fantastic. When are you not a great leader? And can you give both statements equal weight?
Yes.
So what do I mean by emotional, instability or less than emotional stability? Well, if I give you feedback that challenges your identity, and you're unwilling to accept that about yourself, you will never grow as a leader. Yeah. So that instability puts a roadblock, and instead of you seeing that feedback as something that's developmental and wonderful for you as far as your future, you see it as a personal attack. And sometimes you just have to eat the feedback sandwich.
And not owning up to your own mistakes, not being able to admit them. Maybe you covered up, maybe you kind of act like it wasn't that bad, or maybe you blame it on your team. Someone else dropped the ball. I think as a leader, you have to admit to the mistakes you made, and sometimes when your team makes the mistake, you've got to own up to that too.
So I'm going to give you some research that we just conducted, and I won't tell you the context because the paper is actually under review. Well, we actually measured narcissism. We also measured charisma of leaders.
Okay.
And what we found was that in the presence of narcissism, people are less likely to actually get to the point where they are emerging as leaders. People are also willing, though, if you're charismatic, to select you or vote for you as a leader because they think that the charisma is more important than the narcissism.
Oh, interesting. And charisma is a trait people love.
If you're charismatic, and this is some research that a part of my research team with Ethelyn Williams and Kevin Lowe and Raj Pillai, they've done some research over about 15 years on this topic, and we're continuing to bring it into the future. So fascinating. I might vote for you if you're charismatic, even though I don't like that you're narcissistic.
Interesting. So Brian doesn't know this yet, but I just got a great business opportunity, or audio experience for you and I. We should do like the top 5 ways to increase your charisma. Yep, that might be coming to you on the Dr. Jaime audio here shortly. Okay, I love this question that you have. I want to understand what it means a little better. How should leaders think about leading? What does that mean?
It's a challenge for every one of us, right? Because thinking isn't something that we do. It's a natural occurring part of who we are as human beings. Yeah.
It happens.
So critically, we need to understand our perspective, gather data, and think quickly and make decisions decisively. So we need to think critically in all areas of our life, not just our leadership roles. Conceptually, because if we speak just to actual data and points, people aren't motivated by that. We need to think about the greater imagery that we can create for people in our visions. Where are we going? What's it look like? How can we get to that point? Creatively. And why creatively? Because as we align our strategic vision, we need to think of ways that we can actually get there. And if we just keep doing what we did before, we just be the same old way. So when we think creatively, we assess multiple ways to approach a problem and then select from a combination of those things to create the best solution. And here's what's interesting about this, is that it doesn't matter whose idea it is. And as a leader, we should engage people to think in ways that are not traditional.
Okay.
Because the more that we see ourselves as being able to contribute to a solution rather than owning that solution, the better we're willing to participate in that process.
Absolutely.
Isn't that fantastic?
Always try to get people, if there's something that I want a client or a friend or anybody to do or to say, I kind of guide them and let them come to their own conclusion, because then it's a genius idea, right? When we come to our own conclusions, we're genius. So I always try to get people to do that. It's actually something I learned along in my master's program in an interviewing class. That's a great way to get people to follow you, is bring them to their own awareness about things.
Just wonderful. And convincingly, I'd say was the last one, because you have to take ownership of your ideas. And we are all salespersons. Whether you like it or not, you are selling your ideas, or you're selling a product or a service. And when you are trying to convince someone that they should follow you, you need to give them a reason for that.
Yeah.
And so convincing others that you have something that will better their lives and that you are the instrument to do that is a good way to go about thinking for leading.
I love that. Excellent. And by that, he means go to YouTube and iTunes and follow the Dr. Jaime channel right now. Thank you. We'll take a moment of silence. Okay. What traits do the most effective leaders have?
I'm gonna speak about intellectual traits. And I've recently gone through some discussions with Dr. Linda Elder, who's the founder of the Critical Thinking Foundation. And she's got a model of critical thinking that is all about how we engage in the use of our traits, such as empathy. I, as a leader, should know where you're coming from so that I can help understand, so that helps me understand where we're going. And if we're thinking about motivating people, well, everyone's motivated by different things. So if I don't understand your context and your situation, then I'm not really going to have to actually attach some emotion to that that's going to reward you in a way that will compel your behavior.
And some people out there, we tend to use the terms sympathy and empathy really interchangeably. Empathy, just so you're aware if you're not, I want to be very clear so you know what he's saying, is your ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and see life through that lens or perspective for a moment.
So another trait is courage. And I'm speaking about the courage to stand up for your own ideas, the courage to stand up when someone is trying to tell you to do something that violates your values, the courage to champion your own cause with the support of others, and the courage to remain true to who you are. And again, that gets back to that authenticity. Because if I remain true to who I am, my ethics, my value, my morality, then I will continue to be a person that people can rely on, and they know what they get. So consistency.
Well, and you have to feel good inside. So if you're doing something against your ethics and your morals, that's when you don't feel right inside. You've lost peace of mind. For anybody out there that's lost peace of mind, you know how valuable that really is. And you're not a good leader when that little something in the back of your mind is always on ticking that you're doing it wrong. Why are you doing that? That's not the right thing to do. This is going to burn you. Be careful. That can really mess up your leadership because you're spending your energy on the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so traits. So empathy, courage. Are there any other traits that effective leaders have that you want to share today?
Oh, I think that we need to understand that extroversion, talking a lot, does not make you a leader. It's talking in a way that drives conversation, and then allowing the space for people who are more introverted and more thoughtful before they speak, to give them the space. So one trait that I would suggest is that we have the courage to not talk and just being patient. So patience is a skill that we can develop, but it's also who we are as human beings. Some of us are just less patient.
And the more impulsive and fast our society gets, the more patience is super hard to hone in on. I think that's going to be a hard leadership skill for a lot of people. Off the cuff here, if you can answer this for us, do you think a true, strong introvert, real strong, can be a leader?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There are numerous instances of people that are introverted that are leaders. And leadership does not mean that you have to stand up in front of people to talk. It's about working with people, collaborating with them, forming a vision, and then modeling the behavior that you want to see in others. So as we go through history, we can look at examples of people such as Gandhi who are not extraordinarily extroverted. What they do is they resemble the people they want to lead. They model the behavior they want to see. And then they put forth into the world the mission and the vision and the messaging, and they are the instrument that gets them there. Now, there are certain leadership approaches, such as being charismatic, that might require you, in the right context, with the right activity and objective, to stand up in front of a group of people who can make that message and intensify. And then you can go back into where you are. So the challenge with introverts, I would suggest, is how they see themselves. Because we have found that there are some limitations to when people don't see themselves as being associated with leadership traits, then they won't attempt to lead.
Self-doubt, I call that.
So what I'd like to say is, if you're an introvert, think of what you have to say, articulate that in a format that's comfortable to you, through a medium that's comfortable for you, and then consider how that message impacts people, and whether or not you want to stand up and talk about it is not the important part, because you can do things like write a book, start a blog, and you don't have to actually get up.
But to be a leader too, one of your traits was you have to have courage. So it doesn't matter if you're introverted or extroverted. A great leadership skill or trait is to have courage. So as an introvert, there may be moments when you have to intensify that courage within and stand up there and speak about something, and then you can go back into your realm. Excellent. Okay. All right. So any other traits that you want to share before we move on? Good. Okay. Are there some people, we talked about that, not cut out for leading? We're going to move on. I want to spend some time on millennials now. Here we go. This is going to be a great little next few questions here. Is there a difference in how our generation leads or led and how the millennials lead? And if so, what are the differences?
So I want to start out by saying I think this group gets a bad rap.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys do, I have to say.
They get a bad rap, and I think what happens is as people progress through their life, they forget what it was like to be younger, and so we look and say, well, we tend to wag our fingers. So let's just think about it for a minute. The world has changed from when people in different generations have grown up. We look now, and it's different than it was when boomers and Xers were coming into the workforce. So the difference are, we used to have hierarchical organizations, and now people are looking more flat. Why is that? Because we go from authority to a collaboration mindset. And so I would say those are the two most important things: hierarchical versus a flatter structure, and authority versus collaboration. So the way that we think about leading is different, and the expectation from our leaders is different because we value that input. As millennials will value that input that they can give, and we as leaders need to recognize that the expectation is different. So how do we meet those expectations?
So am I hearing this right, that we're much more collaborative? Now it used to be more of a hierarchy, and now we're more collaborative. Is that right?
We are moving towards that trend because the expectation from this demographic is that they will be able to contribute. And why? Because we have nurtured this group of people to show them that they are valuable from an early age. So instead of being separated at the dinner table from the adults, they said, well, hey, parents would say, hey, come join us. What can you contribute to the conversation? So when they go into the workforce, they're just continuing on to what they've been taught.
Yeah.
So who do we have to blame? The people who raised them, who are the people who are then wagging their fingers. So let's take a look in the mirror and say we've created the expectation that people are valuable, and so we should reinforce that in the way that we lead millennials as well. That's one thing.
Excellent. I didn't really think of that. We do kind of want everyone together at the dinner table. There are even sports where everybody makes the team. So I think, we are so much more collaborative. I think that's actually a great thing, to be honest.
One thing I want to also highlight is just because you've given opportunity to collaborate and give your feedback, the leader still has to make the decision. This isn't group decision making. I want to clarify that difference. We collaborate, we come up with some ideas. As the leader, it's up to you to decide which is the best route. And if you have a co-leader, then sharing that responsibility is an awesome thing to do. I want to make sure that we know that contribution doesn't mean that everything that you say should be listened to.
Right.
There's a big difference.
Big difference. And I honestly think, I know we only have like 12 minutes left of the show, but I think this whole section on millennials leading, I think we could spend an hour talking about
We
this.
certainly could.
There's so much information. So many things I want to say that I'm holding back right now. Maybe we'll get him in on an audio and not make him drive up from Fort Lauderdale again. And we'll talk about this. So what do millennials need to learn to become leaders? Oh,
this is a fantastic. First of all, that you have a lot to contribute in due time. Get the expertise.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Get the expertise. Learn, put in your time, and find a mentor that will help guide you. This is a critical thing because that mentor will give you life lessons, and maybe it's going to be in a way that you might not like this form of, in terms of the form of communication, right? So learn what you are expert at, and then begin to practice leading in non-threatening, non-risky environment. Practice all the time.
Well, and I think that's why millennials get a bad rap, is or reputation, I guess, would be the second thing you said. What did you say? You said you've got to work for it. You got to have expertise in it. They often, and please correct me here if I'm wrong, but you want to come out of school and you want to be the CEO of the company. Well, wait a minute. And I think we all look at it like we had to work years we had to get our degrees and then come out and start from the super bottom and work our way up for years to become that. And they're frustrated that they can't be the CEO tomorrow. Then they're consistently changing gears. Well, they're growing up in a society of, I want it now, instant gratification. And I think they pull that into the workforce, which isn't reasonable. A 4-year degree is great, but we need experience in some of these things. And so I think that's why their reputation kind of gets beat up a little bit. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
I agree. It gets sullied because there's an expectation of time horizon that isn't in all cases as expeditious as they would like, as this group would like. I don't want to say they. There's some people within this group. How about that? And so if you're trying to lead, and you should always try to lead, as you continue to fail and succeed, learn and build on your failures as much as your successes. Take that and then learn how people respond to you. So as you try it, you claim a leadership identity, learn from that. If you fail, learn from that. So as you get the experience, then you can use that to say, here's what I've learned, and then make your contribution, not just from gut feeling.
Okay.
That's what I would suggest.
Okay, excellent. All right, what can millennials do to help older generations become more effective leaders?
So there's a concept called reverse mentoring, where we get an older, more established person in an organization who may come from a different generation, who has a lot to offer in terms of career advice and how to navigate the specificities of an industry and how to navigate the challenges within a firm. And that person may not be technologically savvy. So what I would suggest is that the person that's younger finds their unique contributions and says, okay, I would like for you to tell me these things about how I can be a successful leader. Because in return, I would like to give you some knowledge that I think would help you be a better leader. There's this give and take and this reciprocal relationship where everyone mutually benefits. And some research that we've done just on creating relationships that are synergistic is that when both people are experts, you can build on those complementarities. And isn't that fantastic? Because now I value you no matter how old you are, because you know something that I don't know. And I'm humble enough to accept that. And I know something that you don't know. And so let's just do good things together. You help me and I help you. So as we grow, we go. So
and it fosters this instead of this, because there is some real strong negativity between the two. So at times. Okay, so this is a twofold question. We kind of just touched on it, but what tip would you give to a 40, 50, 60-year-old who gets a new manager fresh out of school, who's, let's say, 25, but they feel, this older person feels, they know more. They've been with this company for 20 years, let's say, and they've got this new manager that comes in on day 1 or 2, and they're like, you've got to be kidding me. So if there's that person out there, what would you give them as 1 or 2 initial tips?
I'd ask, know more about what?
Okay.
What is it that you think you know more than me about? And how can I ask you what you know so that we can grow? It's that simple. Because if we're patient and understanding and letting people evolve, we can see inside that person the future. And it's not me versus you, it's me with you. So the best leaders are the best followers. So we have to humble ourselves because we can learn from that person. It's just a matter of figuring out what it is that we can learn. That would be my suggestion.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, all right, so the second part of this question. What would you say to a millennial who has a boss who does everything old school and won't change, and this annoys the hell out of them?
Oh man. I think business acumen is an important aspect of this. Build a business case as to why new school is better than old school. Because the bottom line is what matters. As leaders, we're driving organizations, we're driving movements, we're driving people to change their behavior. And here's what we need to think about. Well, we need to fuel to feed the engine. And in most cases, that comes down to resources, financial or social or capital otherwise. And what that means for us as leaders is we need a business case. Okay. Build your business case. Why is it old school is not as optimal as new school? And tell me how new school benefits over and above what old school will do.
Yeah, and maybe even trying to bring to your old school boss how doing things the new school way could actually help them achieve their goals even more and faster and quicker and more effective because then they end up shining and people want to shine.
Let me help you.
Yes.
Let me help you and stop making it about me and me. Let's be unselfish and giving so that as we help the people that we're supporting grow, they take us along.
Excellent. I love it. Okay. What are some benefits of organizations that invest in training and developing leaders? So why should a company do this?
So number one thing is that we need to build a culture of leadership, because when everyone believes that they can lead, they will be more proactive. And so when tasks need to get done that are unfinished, it's not the one person who says, well, I'm a manager, so I have to stay behind. It's that everyone sees that they can lead. And so we leave things unfinished when we don't have a culture of leadership. And when we have a culture of leadership, we get work done. Mm-hmm. Secondly, the return on investment, and there's a paper that came out again by Ivali and Ivali a little bit in the Leadership Quarterly Journal, and they showed that the return on investment within a very short period of time can be over 200% per employee. And they just capped it at 200% to make it a business case in an academic journal, to show that we invest in people, and the return that we get doesn't just stop at the level at which we participate. So if a senior executive goes into a leadership training, it doesn't stop there. It cascades, they use this language, it cascades down through the entire organization. So guess what? I'm better. Now the people underneath of me are better because I've shown them, and the best way to learn is to teach. And so what you learn in the classroom must transfer over. So you have to select a training and development, a workshop, or an exercise that you can then reflect on yourself and how you grow, and then show others how to grow, because then everyone is in position to lead, and we get more productivity. And last thought, people quit their bosses. Mm-hmm. They rarely quit their organization.
That's such a common quote that I hear on social media. People don't quit their job, they quit their bosses.
The research bears that out, and here's why it's a problem. Gallup just came out with the number of what happens with loss of productivity. Not just came out, it's on Gallup. Right. 2016, that number is $509 billion because employees are disengaged.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So why don't we just take our organizations, hold them by the ankles, and shake the change out of them? Yeah. Let's get productive, and that's what organizations should get when they invest in leader development.
Excellent. Leader development, great return on investment. Okay, is there a point when a great leader is done with honing his leadership skills? I'm talking about a genuinely amazing, humble, ethical, smart, full of integrity. You're looking up to this guy. Is he done?
We are a work in progress.
Okay.
We are a work in progress. Dan Gilbert has a great talk on the psychology of your future self, and it talks about the change that we experience is greater than the change that we anticipate we'll experience. And I don't know how many of those adjectives I fall into, but I'll give you a story about myself. I used to be a national sales director, and I ran conferences and wrote the sales manual, and I thought to myself, I'm a great presenter. I teach, right? Well, I told you I moved on from that transition. First day, first class, first workbook, first page of the first book, in my first hour of my doctoral program, it says, if you're lecturing, you're doing it wrong. Changed my 10 years of history being in front of people presenting, and it crushed me because I thought I was something that I was not. So every time you think that you've arrived, you need to check yourself. So now I spend 7 years at academic conferences and presenting as a student and honing that. I get to be a professor. I start a company where essentially most of what I do is getting in front of people and being a guide and giving the information I found to be useful, that might be useful to help change them. And I started recently speaking in front of Vistage groups. Okay. Which are executive groups where they have a speaker come in, and I got up and I did my first day, and the chair of one of these groups, a guy named Tom Foster, who's a developer of mine and a mentor, says, okay, let's meet after and I can debrief you. And I thought I was going to get applause, right? Roundly applauded. And he gave me 2 hours of feedback sandwich.
Wow. So a leader is never fully developed, that's for sure, and you have to take that feedback.
The next day I spoke to another group, and I was up to 2 or 3 in the morning, and I took all those points, checked my ego at the door, and realized that I was still trying to improve who I am. And I improved significantly the next day. And Tom sat down with me and said, you know what? 50 of these in the future, you're still going to be sitting here with pages of notes. Mm-hmm. So work on it and practice. And that's the thing that I find across all areas of my life and all areas of the people that I grow with. The world changes, we are changing. We need to understand how we adapt to that change and learn new ways to approach leadership.
Well, that's something that we all have to remember, is that even if we feel that we're done, the world is constantly changing, and we have to evolve with that, so we do have to change as well. Okay, so we only have 1 minute left. There were some more questions I wanted to ask you about mentors, advice that you can give women, but we're going to do that on the audio. So if you want to find out the answers to some more questions that I have sitting right here, after this full segment goes up on YouTube and iTunes, at the same time, you're also going to have an audio with Dr. Brian Deptula as well. Before we end, where can everybody find out who you are, more about you, where to follow you?
So www.bkdpartners.com,
okay.
And on Facebook and LinkedIn. We have an Instagram account and a Twitter account, BKD Partners, at BKD Partners, or hashtag BKD Partners, and I have a personal profile, and you can follow me on the professional profile as well.
Excellent, very good. You heard it, bkdpartners.com. If you could leave the viewers with one sentence of advice, what would it be?
Learn, lead, live. Learn first and always, lead always, and when you see an opportunity, and live like the leader that you would like to follow.
Everybody, you are watching the Dr. Jaime Show with Dr. Brian Deptula. Do me a favor this weekend and learn, lead, and live. And while you're living, learning, and leading, go to iTunes and YouTube, subscribe to the Dr. Jaime channel. Next week, we have a bye week, but I will put out some audios for you. Then the following week, we will have Dr. Erica Lopez, chiropractor, on the show. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching the Dr. Jaime Show episode this week. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Do me a favor and subscribe to me on iTunes and YouTube. And of course, please give me some feedback on the show. Looking forward to reading it.